John Milton's Paradise Lost is regarded by many as one of the greatest ever poems written in the English language. An epic poem that follows two different narratives, the biblical story of Adam and Eve as they fall from grace and are expelled from the Garden of Eden, and the story of Satan or Lucifer, who along with the other fallen angels, must create their own home after being expelled from heaven. Just for some overall context. John Milton was an English poet born in 1608. He was a huge advocate for freedom of speech and freedom of the press, which are aspects that certainly bleed into his work. Milton was not a big fan of the monarchy, and many believe this is why his portrayal of Satan is much more sympathetic. It aims to tell you his story as opposed to just telling you he is evil. Paradise Lost was first published in 1667 and consisted of 10 books. In 1674 it was redrafted to contain 12 books. John Milton is considered amongst the greatest English poets to have ever lived, and Paradise Lost was seen as his magnus opus, the greatest of all his work. Now I know stories and poetry from hundreds of years ago can be difficult to read at times, so hopefully today's not-so-brief summary of John Milton's Paradise Lost is somewhat comprehensible, or at the very least entertaining. The poem begins with a brief discussion of humankind and its disobedience towards God. This refers to Adam and Eve eating the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge. Milton speaker places some of the blame on the infernal serpent, the fallen angel that he refers to as Satan and some of us may know as Lucifer. This angel stirred hatred, envy, and revenge. He placed himself above his peers, believing his glory to be equal to God. This turned into a war in heaven, which resulted in God hurling Satan and his followers from heaven into a fiery pit below. The fallen angels wake up in a lake of fire in Tartarus, or what we know as hell, where they are bound by adamantine chains. When Satan wakes, he describes his surroundings. A dungeon, horrible on all sides round as one great furnace flamed. Yet from those flames no light, but rather darkness visible, for those rebellious here their prison ordained in utter darkness and their portion set as far removed from God and light of heaven. Milton does a great job here, contrasting the two domains. If heaven is a place in the sky, full of light, then, wherever Satan and the other fallen angels have woken is a dungeon, a fiery abyss where only darkness is visible, a prison for the fallen. Next, the Satan is his second-in-command at Beelzebub. Despite the predicament they find themselves in, Satan feels no regret for his rebellion against God. In fact, he sees this time as a period of regrouping before they launch their next attack. Beelzebub is not so convinced. After witnessing their failure the first time, he questions whether God can be defeated. Satan doesn't dismiss this idea. Rather than another battle head-on, he suggests a new tactic. God has many beloved creatures, and so what if they were able to corrupt them using their powers and the allure of evil? To do aught good will never be our task, but ever to do ill. Our sole delight has been contrary to his high will, whom we resist? If then his providence out of our evil seeks to bring forth a good, our labor must be to pervert to that end, and out of good to still find means of evil rather than another battle in heaven. What Satan is recommending is a proxy war halfway in between heaven and hell, using God's favorite creations now with a plan. The two angels spread their wings and leave this river of fire. Many argue here that they did not break free of their chains. Instead they were allowed to leave because this was not the punishment that God intended. Flying above they scour the land and come to the conclusion that it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Once on land, Satan calls out to his fellow fallen angels and beckons them to his cause. The speech had its desired effect as the fallen angels were woken from their illusion. If you enjoyed this video, check out this bouquet of poetry Paradise Lost at the description box below. Thank you.